Howdy, friars. Welcome to the demo day on May 21st here. Yeah, we got a little team in person here, so that's a nice first here. Got Chris and Lo. This is the famous Foundry bee. It's been buzzing and generating some buzz and some hype. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so we'll kick off with a demo of a recent smoke signal improvement, and then Squawk will talk about the updates to the death contract, and then we'll just have a bit of free-form chat around what we've been up to this week with the branding strategy and sort of the marketing, or sort of the community building rather, that we are gearing up and doing, which has been very exciting. So let me kick off right away. Okay, so here we are on smoke signal. I can connect. So the big major change, and again, the development on smoke signal has been slowed down a bit lately. It's not connecting. Let me refresh and try that again. It's just a change to how the compose works. So now if I compose, it doesn't pop up on a modal anymore. It goes to a full compose page. So this is just a bit nicer to work with. Everything else still works the same. But yeah, it's just a more comfortable place to compose. Yeah, not much else I think to show other than this little fork me thing. Just want to encourage people to fork smoke signal. And we will have a community bootstrap event in a little less than a month now, and that might involve some rewarding for forks of smoke signal. Yeah, so that's all I got really on the smoke signal demo. So I'll stop sharing there. And then, yeah, Skull, did you want to give us some updates on the death contract?
Yeah, so basically I think I had COVID for the last week, and sort of the left side of my head was in an incredible amount of pain for pretty much a whole week. Really reduced me down to about toddler functionality, which I must say I found disturbing at my advanced age. So yeah, so I mean, I wasn't even in the last demo day. I mean, the last week, Friday, I still thought it was going to be functional, and then things just kept deteriorating from there. Before I give an update, I just want to know the brand strategy. Did you guys run through that last week?
We talked a bit about it, but we're going to talk a lot more about it now.
Yeah. We mentioned the brand strategy as well as some ideas that we might be revealing, and I think we decided to reveal them this week.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I look forward to that. All right. So basically, I can't remember when the last voice update was that I gave. I think it was maybe last week, Thursday or something. But we're now at the stage where we have a basic set of tests for the death contract out that actually run against forked versions of the Ethereum mainnet using Hardhat. Yeah, and I think we now basically have a sufficient amount of tests to reevaluate the audit, actually go back to the auditor and say, listen, we have addressed the concerns that you had, and here is, a new version of the thing. What I wanted to get done last week, but unfortunately this is really incapacitated, is essentially get the scripting for the death contract written out. So in other words, the thing that actually, the process of deploying it, because there are 3 steps that need to happen. We need to deploy the oracle in the contract, and we need to gift the CDP from the old one to the new one. We need to check that it does actually work, and then we need to issue everyone who still has death tokens, their death tokens on the mainnet, essentially. So yeah, so we've included another feature now, basically, which is the risk limit. So there's a maximum amount of ether that this contract will keep itself responsible for. Now, we could theoretically set that so high that it's effectively infinite. But we were thinking maybe we're going to set it in a more reasonable rate of, say, maybe 100 or 200 or 300 collateral, and then essentially only make the contract responsible for a maximum of that, and then we'll leave it, let it simmer a bit. Let's see how it behaves in the wild. during this risk limit, anybody will still be able to withdraw. So if the thing does grow, they can actually get out. Yeah, so now currently it's more of a strategic discussion in terms of, do we launch the thing just with the risk limit in, and then we get the audit in parallel to that, or do we wait for the audit? The only thing is that if we launch it without getting the audit first, and there is something wrong in the meanwhile, then there is the inconvenience of having to redeploy the thing, which might in the second instance have several hundred people with token balances who we then need to move over. So that's the only real obstacle. But at the moment, I'm pretty confident that what we have is dirt simple, and that we, that we are at least basically shaking the hatches to see if they're somewhat waterproof. Yeah, so that's kind of like where we are at the moment. I'd say the next concrete thing is just the deployment script.
Recording. We did. I'm
Yeah.
recording. Sorry.
You're recording.
I'm paranoid. One time we forgot to record it 3 times in a row. So
I recall that.
I would start and be like, we didn't record it again. Sorry. Okay. Please continue, Scott.
Anyway, yeah. So that's where we are at the moment with the death contract. Yeah. So I think we're in a good space there. I don't know if this market correction is the end of the bull market, but it really feels that way to me. That has me a little bit bummed on a personal level. But the cool thing is basically, I think we now have the expertise to be able to, basically build other long short pairs. So we could theoretically now build one that goes DAI Ether, and essentially does the same idea as death, but levers DAI against Ether instead of levering Ether against DAI. So in other words, if the price of Ether goes down, the price of such a token would go up. So that's pretty cool. But I think the best is just to release this version first before we start building that one. Yeah, that's essentially where we are. I think it's now just a question of actually like figuring out some of the technical stuff and just figuring out if strategically it's better to just launch it to the community and say, okay, well, there's death. If something does go wrong, we're going to have to port you somewhere else. The damage will luckily be limited if there is any damage, or if, we should maybe just wait for the audit. I think with this drawdown though, because it'll take a while to recover. If it does recover, I do think we can maybe just hold on a bit and wait for the auditors to come back to us.
Speaking personally, I would put money into a release death contract basically now if it was up, because I think this bounced. But we need to get into market speculation here. But my personal thing is I would expect it to go up if slowly at this point. But okay, cool. Well, yeah. Shall we get into some of the stuff we've been working on this week? Yeah. Where's the link of the
Google Chats?
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I think let's just get started with before that.
Yeah.
So I'll just quickly explain about the brand strategy and why. Okay.
Yeah, cool.
So when any new business starts, it needs to position itself in the market. Now, although Foundry isn't a business per se, it's an organization, and it has a lot of components that function like a business and a brand. In the olden days, when Ferrari, Mercedes-Benz, and BMW and those guys started, because there were so few brands on the market, it wasn't so crucial to name your business something very relevant, because you could simply start a brand, it would get known pretty quickly, and people would know the brand for it is associated back to the name. But now when you walk into a supermarket, there's 10,000 brands, different brands in there. So as with new brands or products or anything in society, Foundry also needs to position itself in a way that makes sense and that people can remember easily what it stands for. So this is done by a few things. The first one is a positioning statement. So where does Foundry position itself? Who is its competitors? What does it do differently from the competitors? And whose problem does it solve? Then from that, we create a brand strategy. Now, a brand strategy is before, theoretically speaking, you even choose a name. So you do a very thorough investigation of competitors, of the market, of your brand's heart, your brand's voice, your brand's personality, basically everything that will be reflected within the brand, from marketing material to the way that UX works, to the way that people interact with the community.
Color schemes, logos.
And that touches on the identity. So in order for us to create an identity, in other words, how does Foundry look? How do you associate Foundry? How does people remember Foundry? If you think of BMW M cars, it's associated with the colors and fast track moving vehicles. How do we get people to remember Foundry? So we've created a very comprehensive brand strategy that basically answers all of these questions in a single document, and that creates a single standard. And when we now interact with the community, whether it's on answering chats or creating marketing material, everything inherits that strategy and enforces what we stand for. From that strategy, we then create an identity, which is font types, colors, logos, stickers, anything that we create visually will then inherit that strategy, but illustrate it visually. So currently, we have finished the brand strategy. And from my side, I want to hand over to you guys, but basically the next action on the list is now to create the identity. So it's to use this strategy and start designing all the different elements like the logos and the stickers and the font sizes from the strategy. But there's more stuff that inherits the strategy that you guys can talk about.
Yeah, well, and on the brand identity, we basically have someone starting on that on Monday, right?
Yeah, well, hopefully it seems like they also have COVID.
Oh, geez, COVID's coming. Well, in any case, we have someone basically in the queue that will be turning the brand strategy into a brand identity, which is really exciting, because then we have, color schemes and logos and stuff, and then we're just one step away from actually redesigning Foundry.com to be really way cooler.
Yeah.
Way better looking. And on that, maybe we can share the mood board really quick.
Yeah. So I actually just in Beyond's made a quick mood board of some of the color schemes and just general art approaches. It also has the bee and the hive type of angle in it. Actually sent it to that. And I also added one sticker design example, which is quite cool.
You put in Foundry stuff here?
Yeah, Foundry stuff, yeah.
Cool. Let me just yank this tab
Should
away.
we maybe just elaborate on the bee idea?
Yeah, we can talk about that. Let me show this mood board. Well, we can talk about it as I show it. Why
Yeah.
not? Okay. So let me share here. Okay. So yeah, we've been talking and hinting about the idea of using bees and hives, basically, and even the hexagons from the hive. Another idea in there for me is also like the carbon fiber, sort of the very dark carbon fiber in red.
Graphene, actually.
Graphene, right? So there could be some interesting graphical possibilities with the hive having hexagonal structures and then the sort of the chemical hexagons in graphene.
Yeah, and the reason for that is carbon. We want to use carbon as the most abundant element in our sort of say that Foundry is based on that. And in a long chain carbon, which is basically most of what we see around us, each product or service that Foundry adds becomes part of the chain and makes this unbreakable chain longer and longer and longer.
Right, because part of the brand strategy there is that Foundry is this thing that builds permanent upgrades to society. So this is one of the pillars of our messaging that we got to in the brand strategy. Smoke Signal, Die Hard if we were to pursue it, even ZimDie. These things, the whole idea is that we go and fearlessly build something, and then once it's built, it's there forever, and society is better off for it. And so the idea is that Foundry would be sort of the asset on the end of this chain that would be adding permanent upgrades that would be represented by the sort of the carbon atoms in there.
And then sort of adds to the whole hive as well, and then we get the community of the bees and the pollination and
right.
Yeah, and bees also being a positive thing. We wanted to associate Foundry not with negative, but rather positive. Bees are positive. You get teams, they vibrate, they pollinate, they buzz.
Yeah. And just like how friars could go and sort of put other projects together, similar to how Skulk put Death together from other existing contracts. A bee could go and pollinate, right?
Yes.
He's actually cross-pollinating in the same way that we would cross-pollinate projects.
Yeah, and the
there's
idea,
also cool stuff about bringing nectar back in the form of dye in the treasury.
and that's honey in the treasury is and also
I just realized honey and dye are both yellow tones, so that's pretty cool.
And then also as queen, we said about the queen bee, we'd have sort of as the bee structure is built out, more products would be added to the hive. That's just a mood board.
Yeah, so just a visual representation of some of the angles that we like. Yeah, that's also
so cool.
One of my favorite.
So I mean, just the color scheme of this is lovely. I mean, imagine if Foundry had this kind of color scheme going, especially if this bee was sort of more robotic or more maybe computer graphics-y.
Like I think in the Hive version, if we scroll down a bit.
There's more here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, see, like this stuff is
So
these bees, that's fucking cool. And so the idea is that active community members would be represented by bees. And sort of like a wild idea, which maybe we could get to if we get the throughput, is to actually get a similar thing as the faces, where each address maps to a face on Smoke Signal. We could actually do a similar thing with sort of a computerized bee. So when you have an address and you have your little Foundry bee, and we can do a lot of imagery with sort of the bees building the hive, which is Foundry, and maybe even on the front page of Foundry, there could be a hive that over time actually grows, and each cell represents some new product. Or new something.
Yeah, lights up.
Yeah, and another thing we want to use with this idea is a unity in a sense where when you navigate between Foundry products and services, there is although it's not the same thing, it has a seamless feel to it. When we did some of the community testing, the people were very confused with switching between Foundry and Smoke Signal, and they didn't actually know that if they buy the Fry token, that's a way to be part.
Yeah,
so this will also be a foundation for creating a seamless feeling between the brands and products within Foundry.
Yeah.
And be sort of a recipe that when the community takes this thing and rolls out more ideas, they would follow this recipe and it would still work. So, and that's the thing about a DAO is once it becomes completely autonomous, how does it keep on existing? And we created a recipe for it to keep on existing without the core team deciding everything. So this is sort of the initial rule book, where you can sort of build on top of and expand the DAO.
Yeah. So that's really exciting to us to have that sort of. What's up?
Sorry, just exit maybe so they can see us again.
Oh yeah, I'll stop screen share after I look at these one more time because these are just so cool.
Yeah.
So the Foundry army of sorts going out to build radically free solutions unstoppably. And the whole hive idea, obviously, I don't know if we've talked about it directly, but a DAO DAOs have hives, and to the degree that a DAO is represented by a hive, that makes it unstoppable and sovereign. I did a tweet storm earlier about a decentralized sovereign organization and why we need that if we're going to keep building free stuff. And so a big piece of the goal that we want to reach by February of next year is to have Foundry be sovereign, I suppose. And a big piece of that is to have the community, sort of a decentralized community that is building things, and there's no one identifiable leader, including Team Toast. Team Toast may still be playing a part, but we, currently we play a role of sort of the sole developers, which means that our project is not at all unkillable. It's not at all sovereign. It's more unnoticed than anything. So as Foundry gets big and starts making big moves, it's crucial that we have the hive. And so that just touches on the bees imagery a lot. And I'm happy to have Lo on board sort of heading the sparking of that community, the lighting of that fire. That's going to be really great. That's right, buzzing it into existence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you guys want to go over? Or
Just talk about permapost.
Oh yeah, so we've been we're still in the sort of brainstorming phases here. There's a couple of ideas floating around. One is we want to expand our throughput to more than just Elm development. It's just too hard to rapidly hire Elm developers, and we have a growing treasure that we really need to turn that into throughput. February is looming ever closer. If we were to get new developers to build a non-Elm project on Smoke Signal, it's best to think of it as what is a different version of Smoke Signal that we can build, and leaving the old Smoke Signal there and also continuing to maintain and improve it. But what can we build that's maybe more targeted? And so some ideas we've been playing with are permapost and Bedrock, but the idea, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think this really ties into Chris's point earlier of actually saying what it is, and not just being
right. Yeah. So permapost is a nice name, for example, because it says it all in the name. It's permanent post, and we could target that to be specifically the medium type use case. So if you go to Smoke Signal, you can write a post, and then you can share the link and share it around. But if we really targeted specifically that use case and called it permapost, and made it a really, really nice, welcoming environment for the writer to compose, as well as when the article is done, have a really neutral presentation of it, like Medium does as well. Mm-hmm. We could call that permapost, and we could potentially spin up a team of like React developers very quickly. We're talking about 2 to 4 people, just hiring quite quickly and getting that out, and we could build that maybe very quickly. And then so let's say I share with you a permapost. I give you the link and you read it. Oh, that's nice. Then there would be maybe on the bottom, this is just we're thinking through this. It's using the same Smoke Signal contract, so it would share all the data. So maybe on the bottom of that, it would say 54 comments on Smoke Signal. And you click on that, and then you go and you see the same content, the same piece of writing, but it's on Smoke Signal, and you have the Reddit style conversation at the bottom. And then Smoke Signal in that case is sort of specializing into the role of conversation. Or maybe just a reference implementation, whereas the permapost app would be specializing in the form of people want to write their content and have a place to share it, maybe with a better author page, for example. And maybe we even touch on the blog functionality.
Yeah. Another thing I want to add is just to again show the importance of the brand identity and brand strategy is when we create these products out of the Foundry strategy, they need to inherit something that feels the same but is not the same.
Yeah.
And so the whole beehive, color scheme, everything won't be exactly the same on a site like Permapost, but it would inherit certain elements to at least make you feel like you're navigating between within the same ecosystem. And also Permapost, like you said, would target the specific writers. Damn, I lost my line there.
Well, I was just going to say as well on the permapost name, I mean, the great thing about a name like that is you think of, there's so many sentences you could say it in and it just sells the product already. Like, oh, I'm not going to be deplatformed because my post is on permapost. You know, oh, here's a link. And then it's like, well, what will the woke people say? It's like, well, it doesn't really matter because it's permanent. So
got something to leak, put it on permapost.
That's right. Yeah. The best place to leak is permapost, it would seem. So,
Scott, you're muted.
I know, I just said something very profound, but then I decided the world's not ready.
Thanks for saying.
No,
you didn't permapost that.
We'll have to go back in the recording and read my lips. But just a quick question on that, basically, like I think part of the appeal of some of the things like Substack and so forth is the capacity to have a limited audience as to people who could reply on it. Now, fundamentally, you can't really censor anyone from replying on anything in Smoke Signal. Theoretically, Smoke Signal could be used as like the universal comment system anyway. You just basically say that, oh, this is actually a comment to that other link, where I wasn't supposed to comment.
Right.
But I just want to put it out there. I mean, my personal view of the opt-in filter type has always been like, we have a primary filter for things with victims. We have a secondary filter for the king, and we have a tertiary filter for the user. I'm just wondering if it wouldn't be useful in that case to actually like have a filter for the author as well, where he can just basically say,
Yeah, I'm just agreeing. And you could even, the way I was thinking as you started speaking was, as far as the comments, you could have the article, and then the only comments that appear are the ones that he's already approved. So it's quite literally, it's like the author's kingdom. It's his domain, and he decides what goes there. And he can welcome comments in, but I'm not going to post something about, whatever I would like. Garden, and I don't have to worry about the Nazi trolls invading. They'll at most invade my inbox, and then I can decide yes or no on whether they actually show up on my post.
Yeah, by default, but the user using it can still theoretically put it off and go see what the Nazis had to say.
I think then they would just go to smoke signal, so you wouldn't even need to actually implement it on permapost. There would just be a link on permapost to say, oh, go look at it in smoke signal where there are no rules, which also gives us an interesting out in terms of, what if people start using smoke signal for really bad stuff? We can always just say, okay, look, we're not supporting smoke signal anymore. We're going to support these other things like permapost and whatever, and actually implement filters on those. And we still have delivered on the promise of we never censor smoke signal. And also somebody else can take that and run with it if they want. But it really gives us a lot of, protection in terms of if it starts getting nasty there and we start getting fingers pointed at us. We can say, okay, well, we're done with that, but we're going to keep working on permapost. And then especially in a context like permapost, if the Nazis are gathering there and we're getting in trouble for it, we can say, well, look at the authors. It's the authors that are welcoming that stuff in, not us.
Yeah, I think we can chat through it like in some detail. But I think if the idea is just there that the guy can actually at least wall his garden to some degree, then essentially that does give people like a pretty cool way. But say, well, what would be a really cool feature though, I just don't know how in the heck one would do it, is like to have public encrypted content and have it only be decrypted for people allowed on the I know that what's it called, CipherNet. There's a project that does something like this.
We spoke about a solution. And Logan spoke about a solution for this. If people want to use permapost premium to replace something like Patreon, where you need to somehow pay to access the content, you tip in crypto and then access the rest of the post, and that would require encryption. And we have a very good solution already for where the keys are stored and to make sure you can actually access the content. So
and I would still fall under the permapost name. So I could still put something on permapost.
Permapost premium.
And it's permapost. It's permanent, but it's
PPP.
Yeah, the alliteration works.
I just want to say one last thing about I lost my line a bit earlier about the strategy. When I go around and speak to people, when you meet somebody, the first thing they ask you is, how are you? And most people say busy, but I think that's quite a stupid answer, because we're all busy. It's like stating the obvious. I rather say what I'm busy with. So I try and tell as many people as possible about Foundry and what we're doing and the products, and that creates a lot of conversation. And nobody has really positively reacted about smoke signal, I think, or the name at least, and that's where the permapost comes from. But also, then I show smoke signal to them, or I direct them there. And what do they land on? They land on this forum homepage thing that looks like, the one guy told me, it looks like an engineer built that. And so one of the elements that we're going to be adding with the strategy that's going to sort of grow out of the strategy is landing pages for the different products. So these will be one-pager sites that explain what smoke signal is, what it's about, how it works, and out of this there will be multiple call to actions to smoke signal to actually get started. But this will be an explainer page that visually very nicely explains what it's about and how it works, and a few other things. So we're also going to be adding landing pages for the different Foundry products and services to actually make them explainable and to give you a place to direct people to. That's not just the homepage of the forum site, which is also obviously can inherit the brand strategy. So I just wanted to add that as well. Scott, any other comments from your side? Muted. You're muted, man.
Not right now.
Not right now. Okay, do we have any questions from Imri?
Imri. Got community members in the chat.
No, I think it sounds good. No questions at the moment.
Okay, cool.
Well, Logan's just
Logan's just being antisocial.
I'm back, yeah. I decided I don't like you guys, but I changed my mind.
don't be like
I'm
that.
back now. Yeah, well, I don't think there's anything else to go over. Not on my head anyway, so.
Yeah, other than, I think we did post the strategy and the community guidelines.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Thank
So
you for
we'd like the
that.
community to please review that for us, give their input.
Yep,
Yeah,
I'll put
and-
links in the video description here.
But we'll soon then be putting the text documents into visual representations.
Yeah,
And then we'll be making stuff like physical shirts and caps and
Merch.
Telegram stickers, merch
yeah,
from it as well. That's quite exciting.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, and I'll just remind people, please join the Discord.
Yeah.
I'll put that link in. Let me just write these down as I mention them, actually. The Discord, we really want people to join that.
Follow Foundry B.
That's right. Discord, Foundry B. And then there was one other thing. Oh yeah, we're starting a Notion up. It'll be a sort of a wiki of sorts, and we're going to try to collect all of more and more of our stuff there, so that the community can dig their teeth in and use it and contribute as well. So I'll put that link as well.
I'll put that link in the description.
That's right. So like and subscribe, bitch. Alrighty. Okay.
Okay,
Cheers.
cheers.
Bye bye,
Cheers, Brian.
Mikey.
Cheers.